Welcome back, here today with another episode of What's Going On in the Community. Our guest today is Tray Hawkins, currently the chairman of the Washington County, Florida Board of County Commissioners. This is an episode we've put off for a while. Recently, school shootings in Florida have been in the news. 2 weeks ago, we experienced some of that. We have waited to discuss school safety. At this time, though, Tray is with us today to talk about just that. Recently, Governor Rick Scott, governor of Florida, hit politician in Florida, has allocated up to $500 million toward enhanced school safety in the 67 counties of Florida. When we come back, we're going to talk to Tray about all this and more, and we will be right back. Welcome back. Our guest today is Tray Hawkins, currently chairman of the Washington County, Florida Board of County Commissioners. Before we get started, that title of chairperson, chairman, whatever you want to say, politically correct, you are the spokesperson in many cases for that sitting board. You also conduct meetings, and you also travel to Tallahassee and other areas on a regular basis, representing the people, the citizens, the voters of Washington County, as well as that entire board. Talk a little bit about what that's meant to you so far, Tray, and how that's affected your life.
Well, it's definitely made my life busier, but I was honored, very honored by the fortitude of my board members to honor me with asking me to be the chairman. It's an honor, it definitely is, and it's something that I hold pride in. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just one vote still, and I recognize that, and I understand that. It does come with a little more ability to get out and work Tallahassee like we should. But without the board that I have behind me, the chairman would be ineffective anyways. I've got a great board, man. We back each other. The camaraderie of the board is great. We're not necessarily that we just rubber stamp everything, but for the most part, we have the same outlook on everything, and we're able to discuss it and tweak our motions in our workshops. We have great workshops, and everyone is working on the same common goal to build the best Washington County that we can. And again, I can't say enough good things about the board that I have to work with. Alan and his vast knowledge of DOT and his ability to look through contracts, Steve with his ability to understand the utility side of the things, the equipment side, Charles with his people skills, being able to get out and talk to people and know that, and Todd, his ability to have business sense that he's had, and same way with Charles, he has the business sense of his own business his whole life, and it's just great that everyone has their own unique qualities, and it just blends to a great board, and I wouldn't trade them for nothing in the world.
The common thread in what seems to make the difference in this sitting board is that business acumen. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the county is a business.
Yes, sir.
And you have a spreadsheet. You can't spend money that you don't have. Unfortunately, at times we've all seen that happen here and elsewhere. So I would think that alone brings up the level of the ability of this board, just that business sense.
Me and Steve are the newcomers to the board. Charles, Todd, and Alan, they were been on for at least 2 years prior to us coming there, and they done a great job before we got there. My hat's off to them guys. They paid down debt. They were fiscally responsible. So it is great to step into a situation that we stepped into, and it's already moving in the right direction. My hat's off to the previous board. You hear a lot of times people come in and doom and gloom the previous regime. No, man, they done what they're supposed to. They paid down our debt. They were moving the county in the direction. I think since we took office a little over a year ago, we may have sped the process up a little bit. When you have 5 people all like-minded, it tends to do that, speed the process up of working together. And we have so many projects that we're working on now that Washington County has never had happen before, and the nuance of it is sort of trying to find your way as basically like a toddler through a new kitchen. You're having to feel your way through it, and we learn from our mistakes, and that's the best thing about it. We allow each other to make mistakes, and then we correct them. But I've told everybody in the past, if you're not making a mistake, then you're not trying. And we're out to make them, and we'll own up to them, and we'll move off past that, and we'll know not do it again. So I'm excited about it.
The only surefire way not to make mistakes is to not do anything.
That's right.
And that's not an option.
No, absolutely not.
Especially in this day and time. We are just finally coming out of that hole that was that bubble bursting.
Mm-hmm.
As mentioned, as chairman of the board, you are tapped to attend many meetings.
Yes, sir.
We pointed out already that some of that happens in our state capital of Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. Just recently, you had the opportunity to attend a meeting with Governor Rick Scott. It included many of the sheriffs in the area, talking about Rick Scott's response to the Parkland shootings and his allocation of funds. Talk a little bit about that.
Without a doubt, Rick Scott is an amazing man on his foresight of how to implement the procedures to try to. We're never going to live in a bubble where we're completely safe, but we've got to make it conducive to safety as we possibly can, and he's doing a great job. We met with him Monday in Defuniak Springs. Sheriff Atkinson was kind enough to invite us over. I went over with our sheriff's department. Our sheriff's department was well represented. Sheriff Cruz come over and brought a show of force with his deputies. But Governor Scott, he has stepped up to the plate. He understands the necessary and the timeliness of showing that we're not going to allow that. We're not going to allow that to be the culture in the state of Florida. So he's implemented. He's proposed a $500 million in school safetiness, whether it be hardening schools with your bulletproof glass, your steel doors. Then also have an SRO officer in every school district or every school in the state of Florida, and that's huge. Just for the simple reason, whenever you send your child off to school that morning, you expect the school district to do their job in keeping him safe, and our sheriff's department keeping him safe or her safe. And as I tell people, all we want is to send them off happy and healthy and bring them back happy and healthy and better educated. And that's what we want to do here in Washington County.
As a taxpayer in the state of Florida, in the county of Washington, in the city of Chipley or Vernon or wherever you happen to live, you have a reasonable expectation of safety. Mm-hmm. You have a reasonable expectation of emergency services.
Yes, sir.
At the same time goes hand in hand the prudence of going out into that hard, cruel world. And we hope that as parents, as teachers, as role models, whatever your position in life, that we are better enabling children to have situational awareness, to have a reasonable understanding of what they should do to be safe, and more importantly, what they should not do to ensure that they're not going to be safe. But we're talking about school kids. We're talking about the first 16, 18 years of their life, and certainly the preponderance of those being much at the young end of that scale. Right now, as you point out, we cannot reasonably say that we can do anything except putting them in a bank vault and shutting the door for them to be totally safe. Mm-hmm. We live in an interesting world. We live in a scary world, and things have changed drastically in the last 50 years, let alone the last 5 years. Yes. What right now is Washington County as an entity looking at doing? I know that you've got this potential funding from the state. What has been your discussion amongst yourself with your sheriff, with your other commissioners, with other entities within the county? What are you talking about now in vague terms and general terms about what are our options for safety?
Since the shooting in South Florida, the sheriff and I have had multiple meetings, closed door meetings, discussing which route's best, how to implement anything. So we called a special meeting today, this Friday at 9 o'clock, and like I said before, we got an amazing board. Come in, we sat down, discussed what we could do for school resource officers, how we felt the best way to secure the safety of our children in Washington County, and as always, my board just amazed me. They voted 5-0 today to increase the sheriff's funding to implement school resource officer in every school in Washington County. The reason the local government is so different than state government, we can do stuff immediately. It takes so long to get stuff through the House, Senate, then across the governor's desk. We just felt that time wasn't on our side to wait on that. So our county administrator, me and him sat down and discussed it, and so we brought it to the board today. And again, the board, they were enthusiastic and energetic about it. They all had their own ideas and own way to implement it, but at the end of the day, they seen the best way was to put school resource officers. So when you drop your children off in the morning, you see the presence of a armed law enforcement officer, and at the end of the day, when you pick them up, you see a presence of armed law enforcement. Not only are you seeing that, but anyone else that's in our community, that traveling through our community, sees that as well. And I've always thought a soft target is not something that we want our schools to be, and our sheriff is going to see that it's not a soft target, that he has a highly trained, highly qualified, and highly skilled armed law enforcement officer at each one of our schools here in Washington County.
If county government moves slow in the determination of which roads need to be graded, which roads need to be paved, non-emergency situations, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about that which is the most dear to our heart, and that's our young children, our school environments, then hats off to you for making that happen as quickly as you did. Now, up till now, or including as we sit today, there are not SRO officers at every school in Washington County. We have a total of 8 schools in Washington County. We have Vernon Elementary, Middle School, and High School. We have Chipley Elementary, which is KMS, Kate Smith Elementary School, and then Rolac and Chipley High School. We have Wise, and we have Florida Panhandle Technical College. On which campuses do we currently have SROs?
The way I understood, there was one in the Vernon area that serviced all 3, and then you had 2 here in Chipley that serviced the majority of the campuses here in Chipley. At this time, I was speaking with Sheriff Cruz before we went on air. He, as early as Monday morning, he'll have start implementing officers in Vernon Elementary School, Middle School, High School, Kate Smith, Rolac, and Chipley High School. So any time of day that you come to campus, you can feel safe that there's an armed deputy on the campus. And the potential harm goers can also feel the same way, that there's an armed deputy waiting on the other side of that door if you decide to do anything to one of our campuses. And I have no doubt that Sheriff Cruz will never have one of his deputies stand down and wait.
I would think that, especially after that hit the news, that there's probably no county in the United States that's going to repeat that. That hit home. Let's not get into that.
I don't want to get into it.
No, so right now, as we understand it, there are 3 total SROs, school resource officers, in Washington County.
Yes, sir.
1 in Vernon, 2 in Chipley. Hopefully, as early as Monday, as Sheriff Cruz indicates, there will be a total of 3 in each municipality covering those 3 schools. That's strong. It's also expensive. How do you afford that?
Well, our constituents of Washington County, early this year, we implemented a franchise fee. We promised them that we was going to roll millage back to where we could have it where we still met our local effort. It's a difficult thing when you implement a fee or a tax. You're still taxing the same people that pays ad valorem. But ad valorem is such an unfair way to tax someone. So everyone has a power bill. So we've seen that everyone's paying a small percentage. And so with that money that we've already had our budget year set forth this year, so we implemented that fund to fund the SRO officers. Again, we still have plans on rolling our millage rate back. This changes nothing. Rolling our millage rate back and invested in our infrastructure of Washington County. So our goal is still going to be met, but we felt there's nothing more important than the safety of our children. And I know the constituents of Washington County, without a doubt, understands that, respects that, and expects that out of us commissioners. So I feel that that they see their money being used in a valuable way.
You know, sometimes we look at things through the wrong end of a telescope. Mm-hmm. When you add $1 of employee compensation, in other words, add an employee in any shape or form, those monies, if that person lives in the community, are spent right here in the community. Yeah. So it's not all outgo. You may see an immediate increase in payroll, but those monies are spent and paid back in taxes right here in the same community. So it's really not a total expenditure, or not on the expense side of the ledger column. Yes, sir. It actually trickles back.
Well, again, there's no monetary value on a child's safety. None. I don't care what political official or what board you represent or what entity you represent. There's not $1 that could replace one of our children. That's the most precious commodity that we have in Washington County. And we're going to protect them. And again, I have no doubt with the sheriff that we have and the department we have, our parents for our children will rest easy Monday while their children are on campus, knowing that there's one of our highly skilled, highly qualified, well-armed school SRO officers at every one of our campuses.
You know, you mentioned the makeup of the current County Commission board as being cooperative and collaborative, forming a team which is actually getting work done. It would be remiss not to point out the fact that many times it's pointed out that if not for the first time in Washington County's history, certainly in a while, that the police department in Chipley and the Washington County Sheriff's Office has a very close working relationship. Certainly that works in our favor when we start talking about enhanced security and enhanced safety of any kind, but certainly as it pertains to the school system.
Well, for the first time in Washington County history, I can tell you this, that every government entity, school board, commission, sheriff, city councils, town councils, police departments are all in 100% unified, working in the same direction. There's from the county commission funding, helping to offset the cost for the city of Vernon to redo their water and sewer project, hauling dirt to them so they could afford the grant that they implemented. From the Washington County Board of County Commissions, working with the city of Chipley to secure property for spray fields, setting down with water management, DEP. We understand that high tide floats all boats and that we're all in this together. And if every entity in this is working the same direction, that we're going to reach our goal. And we're going to reach our goal here in Washington County. We're going to change the complexion of Washington County and make Washington County a shining light, one of the best counties in the state of Florida.
When you address safety, when you address children, when you address the combination of two in school safety, it becomes a very emotional issue. And we're fortunate that it sounds like you've got just about a universal approval and acceptance for the expenditure of the monies in this way. Did it take a board action this morning at your meeting to do that? Yes,
we called a meeting, had about a 45-minute discussion about it. The question was never not to do it, it was just how to fund it and how to implement it. Not one of our commissioners ever questioned the need of it or why are we doing this or how are we doing it. It was simply that where are we going to pull the money from, how are we going to fund it, and how are we going to continue it even though if the governor's plan does not come through. So again, when you have a unified board as we do here in Washington County, I had no doubt going to that meeting that this was going to pass with a 5-0 vote, and true to their colors, they did not let me down.
As you point out, state government moves slow. With the best of intentions that Rick Scott, governor of Florida, currently has, as you point out, that still has to go to the House, the Senate, and then again through his desk. And in the meantime, the options or the opportunities for lots of other things, pork and what have you, to be added or taken away from that bill. So we never count on anything except what's already in our pocket, and we don't spend money that we don't have. It sounds like you guys have done a great job of looking towards the best case, preparing for the worst case, and then fortuitously have already got this nest egg, if you will, that was maybe heretofore not necessarily earmarked except for general fund. Where do you go from here?
Well, we continue on calling our legislators, our senator and our representative, and letting them know that we are concerned about safety. We like Governor Scott's plan, and we work Tallahassee hard as we can. The contacts that we made there, and let them know that we like Governor Scott's plan. And we hope through the legislative process that it comes through to fruition. But at the same time, when you have a senator, as we do with Senator Gaynor, and a representative, as we do with Brad Drake, them guys are working tirelessly to ensure the safety of each one of our constituents as well. And we appreciate the job they're doing. And we're here to cheer them on and also give them any sort of insight that we have that's in our local abilities and make the contacts that we have there to support them as well. And that's what we're doing in Washington County. Each one of our commissioners are busy on the phone today, or if not busy on the phone, they're in Tallahassee today, making sure that that Tallahassee politicians know that we mean business about protecting our children, and we expect them to step up and help us out any way they can.
The good thing in that respect, this is not a South Florida, North Florida issue. So often we say that, the bigger cities are down south and sometimes they get the preponderance of the support or the help. In this case, it's a state issue, universal.
Best thing about it, it's not a partisan issue. You can drop the D and the R real quick whenever you start talking about children's safety, and that's what I see our governor done. There's no partisan whenever you're talking about a child's life, and that's exactly what we're talking about, a child's life. And when you lose the amount of children we lost in South Florida, I heard one of their fathers speaking the other day, and his message was he hopes that he's the last father that ever has to go through this. I have children, and I couldn't imagine it. That phone call that he received, and by gosh, here in Washington County, we're going to do what we have to make sure that no one gets that phone call in Washington County.
County Commission position is not meant to be a full-time position. It is created for a working businessman or working person to be able to continue their normal everyday life. Rightfully so, you're kind of choked up over this. It hits hard. We've got 6 grandkids. I get it. Thank you for everything that you've put into this. It's become more of a full-time job probably than what you anticipated, but fortunately you have been able to work that out. You're spending a lot of time in Tallahassee. Thanks for all that you do, and I appreciate your time coming on the show, letting our constituents hear from you, from the horse's mouth, if you will. We hear lots of innuendo, we hear rumors, we hear stories. I think it's very important for you and others in government to come on regularly, be able to tell the story the way that it is supposed to be told, and tell the whole story, the truth, not just a soundbite, because many times we don't get the right story that way.
Well, Paul, you're an asset. You and Miss Debbie, y'all do a wonderful job. We appreciate everything y'all do for us. You allow us to get our story out. Again, like you said before, sometimes the story is not necessarily how it sounds. There's 2 sides to every story, or 3 sides to every story. There's my side, your side, and the truth. And so I appreciate the opportunity. And you mentioned a while ago about a job. This has never been a job. I enjoy it. I love it. I love this county. I love the people of this county. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell it, my wife, my children. I appreciate the time that they allow me to do this job. And if it wasn't for my wife, there's no way I could do this job and do it the way that I see it needs to be done. And I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, buddy.
Our guest today has been Tray Hawkins, Chairman of the Washington County, Florida Board of County Commissioners, here today talking about children's safety, school safety. What more can you say? We'll be right back.